Have you ever heard of a king who had the gift of wisdom, but whose harem of 1,000 women led to his downfall? This is the story of Solomon, the wisest, richest, and most powerful king in biblical history. He made Israel great, but he had one weakness: women. His desire for women clouded his judgment, and although Solomon had everything to be the greatest king of Israel, he ended up being the worst. God granted Solomon the gift of wisdom, and he made Israel a powerful kingdom full of wealth and trade relations with distant realms. But his harem was a lush garden made up of 700 wives and 300 concubines, each from a different corner of the known world. Princesses from Egypt with mysterious eyes, ladies from Moab, women from Ammon, Edom, and Sidon, each with their own stories and dreams entangled in Solomon's magnificent court. Solomon's harem became a labyrinth of political intrigue and fragile alliances. With each union, Solomon sealed pacts that ensured peace for his kingdom, and each woman brought a piece of her homeland, turning the palace into a living tapestry of mixed cultures. But these unions were a double-edged sword, as they also brought the gods and practices of their countries, challenging the pure faith of Israel. So, was his harem of 1,000 women the reason for his fall? In this video, we will explore Solomon's story, from his incredible legacy of wisdom to his downfall. Was he really able to control the demons? What were the consequences of his death for the kingdom of Israel? Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any incredible biblical stories. Let's start in the ancient city of Jerusalem in the year 990 BC, where a new prince was born. His name was Solomon, which means peaceful and friend of God. Solomon was conceived from the relationship between Bathsheba and King David, the brave shepherd who defeated Goliath and whom you have surely heard about. But Solomon's story began marked by a dark secret: the adulterous relationship between King David and Bathsheba, who at the time was married to Uriah the Hittite, a brave soldier in David's army. In a desperate attempt to hide his sin, the king sent Uriah to war, ordering the other soldiers to leave him unprotected on the battlefield. As expected, Uriah met his death in combat. However, God's eyes were not blind to the king's actions. The death of David and Bathsheba's first son was seen as divine judgment, a punishment for the committed adultery. But amidst sadness and repentance, God showed his mercy. He forgave King David, and from that reconciliation, Solomon was born, a peace offering between heaven and earth. The young prince grew up under the tutelage of a wise and enigmatic man, the prophet Nathan. While King David dealt with the affairs of the kingdom, Nathan became Solomon's mentor and guide, shaping his mind and spirit with profound teachings and divine revelations. Nathan, with his penetrating gaze and calm voice, saw an extraordinary destiny in Solomon. Through his eyes, the prophet perceived the spark of wisdom and the promise of greatness that burned in the young prince's heart. But then Nathan began to weave a bold plan. The prophet knew that Solomon was not King David's firstborn, and that there were older brothers who might claim the throne. Nathan also harbored a dark secret. He knew the full story of the adultery between David and Bathsheba, Solomon's mother. With cunning and determination, Nathan decided to use this knowledge to his advantage. In private audiences with King David, Nathan began to plant the idea that Solomon was destined to be the heir to the throne. With carefully chosen words and prophetic visions, the prophet convinced the monarch that choosing Solomon was God's will. Hence, bit by bit, David began to see in his younger son the promise of a glorious future. When David fell ill and his death approached, he gathered the necessary strength to reaffirm his decision and name Solomon as his legitimate successor. However, the young Solomon, only 15 years old, knew that his reign was born under the shadow of threat. His father's warning words echoed in his ears, reminding him to be vigilant against potential enemies who might conspire against him. And so, with a resolution that surpassed his age, Solomon embarked on an extensive purge to secure his power. Joab, David's chief general who had supported Adonijah's claim to the throne, was one of the first victims of the purge. Thus, Solomon made it clear that no one was safe from his ruthless justice. And then he eliminated Adonijah, cutting off any possibility of conspiracy against him. But the young king did not stop there. With a strategic vision that surpassed his age, Solomon set out to strengthen the military force of the kingdom and embarked on forging an alliance with the powerful Pharaoh of Egypt. Thus, he took the Pharaoh's daughter as his first wife, thereby sealing a pact that promised to strengthen ties between the two nations. The union with the Egyptian princess, wrapped in silks and exotic jewels, was a success. Unfortunately, Solomon thought that uniting with powerful women from other realms was the fastest way to grow his kingdom. This thought would haunt him later. But on a quiet night, while the young King Solomon lay resting in his bed, he plunged into a deep and revealing dream. In this dream, God appeared before him, and with a resonant voice full of grace, God said to Solomon, "Ask for whatever you want me to give you." Solomon, with a humble heart, aware of the immense responsibility resting on him, responded, "You have shown great kindness to your servant, my father David, because he was faithful to you and righteous and upright in heart. So give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong. For who is able to govern this great people of yours?" Solomon's request pleased the Lord, who recognized the purity of his heart and his desire to rule with wisdom. God, pleased, replied, "Since you have asked for this, and not for long life or wealth for yourself, nor have asked for the death of your enemies, but for discernment in administering justice, I will do what you have asked. I will give you a wise and discerning heart, so that there will never have been anyone like you, nor will there ever be." Thus, Solomon awoke from his dream, carrying with him the most precious gift a ruler could desire, the wisdom and discernment granted by God himself. This divine encounter marked a turning point in Solomon's life, enabling him to lead his people with justice, compassion, and unparalleled understanding. Solomon's wisdom became legendary, attracting people from all nations who longed to hear his words and learn from his knowledge. As it is written, "And all the kings of the earth sought the presence of Solomon to hear the wisdom that God had put in his heart." This wisdom was reflected on a memorable day when two women presented themselves before King Solomon, both claiming to be the mother of the same baby. With tears in their eyes and trembling voices, each narrated her version of the story, clamoring for justice and recognition of her motherhood. The baby, oblivious to the dispute, lay in the arms of one of the women, while the tension in the throne room became palpable. Solomon, with the wisdom God had granted him, listened attentively to both women. Then, with a penetrating gaze and a firm voice, he issued a decree that left everyone present astonished. "Bring me a sword, cut the living child in two, and give half to one and half to the other." A sepulchral silence invaded the room as the attendees held their breath at the king's shocking proposal. Then the true mother of the child, with her heart torn and love overflowing from her being, exclaimed, "Ah, my lord, give her the living child and do not kill it." In contrast, the other woman, with unsettling coldness, accepted the division of the baby. At that moment, Solomon revealed his final verdict. "Give the living child to her and do not kill it. She is his mother." The king's wisdom had triumphed, unmasking the truth and protecting the life of the innocent. The true mother, moved by unconditional love, had preferred to renounce her son rather than see him die, while the impostor had shown her lack of empathy and maternal affection. The news of this extraordinary judgment spread rapidly throughout the kingdom, and the people of Israel were amazed at the divine wisdom that dwelt in their king. As it is written, "And all Israel heard of the judgment that the king had rendered, and they feared the king, for they saw that the wisdom of God was in him to administer justice." This episode became a lasting testament to the wisdom and discernment that God had granted Solomon. His ability to administer justice with insight and compassion earned him the respect and admiration of his people, consolidating his reign and leaving a legacy that would transcend generations. However, the people still clung to ancient traditions. They sacrificed in high places on makeshift altars under the open sky, as a temple dedicated to the name of Jehovah had not yet been erected. Then Solomon set out to build the first temple of Israel. But at that moment, He did not have the means to achieve the grand temple he envisioned, so he embarked on a mission to forge a strategic alliance with Hiram, the King of Tyre, a city renowned for its construction prowess and wealth in natural resources. Solomon sent messengers to Hiram with a bold proposal. "You know that because of the wars waged against my father David from all sides, he could not build a temple for the name of the Lord his God until the Lord put his enemies under his feet. But now the Lord my God has given me rest on every side, and there is no adversary or disaster. I intend, therefore, to build a temple for the name of the Lord my God." King Hiram, who held a deep friendship and admiration for David, Solomon's father, responded with enthusiasm and goodwill. He praised Solomon for his wisdom and recognized the divine favor that rested upon him. "Praise be to the Lord today, for he has given David a wise son to rule over this great nation," Hiram declared. Thus, an agreement was forged between the two kings. Hiram provided Solomon with cedar and cypress logs, along with skilled craftsmen from Tyre who were renowned for their expertise in construction and craftsmanship. In exchange, Solomon supplied Hiram with generous quantities of wheat and olive oil to sustain the people of Tyre. The alliance between Solomon and Hiram marked a turning point in the construction of the temple, as the combined resources and expertise of both nations were brought to bear on this monumental endeavor. The temple began to rise, a symbol of faith and devotion, built to honor the name of the Lord. Solomon's vision and determination, coupled with the support of King Hiram, ensured that the temple would become a magnificent testament to the enduring legacy of Solomon's reign and his unwavering commitment to God.